thing it said is to write it as repeated multiplication. So if you have 4 cubed, it's telling you how many times to rewrite the 4. So we want to multiply it by itself repeatedly, and we're going to do that 1, 2, 3 times. So there are my 3 4s. And then when we actually type that into our calculators, what do we get? Yeah, 64. And so remember that when you're typing it in, that you are using the caret key and typing it in exactly as you see it. So let's go to the next one. So the next one has a parenthesis. So it's got parenthesis, -3, close it off, and then raise it. Remember, your raise it key is the caret key right here, to the 6th power. So the next one's going to give me 729. Did we all get that for the next? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So this would have been -3, and you can put it in parentheses or not, whatever you'd like to do. But we need 6 of those. It's a little obnoxious to write it out, but not hard either, hopefully. Okay, so there are my 6 -3's that are being multiplied together. Are we good on those first 2? Okay. Number 3. How many 10's do I need multiplied together? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember the trick. My answer should have a 1 and then how many zeros? 4. And so if you remember the trick, the nice thing about that is then you don't even have to get out your calculator and use it. Alright, so the next one's kind of funny in how we're going to write it. So we have a negative out front of everything. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 5's being multiplied together. So I want to explain the difference between 2 and 4. Because don't 2 and 4 look really similar to you? Yeah. So 2 and 4 look very similar, but the difference is the parentheses. So if there's a parenthesis around it, then we need that thing repeated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, exactly as it is in the parentheses. For this one, because it's not in parentheses, there's that one lonely minus, and then we're just taking the 5 and raising it to the 4th power. So we're just going to go ahead and multiply the 5 by itself 4 times. So for this one, if I type it in, you're going to be very literal in typing it in. So do you see how there's a negative, and then a 5, and then I raise it to the 4th, so we get -625. Okay, it should be negative. If you put parentheses, it won't be. So you've got to make sure that if there are parentheses, use them. If there aren't, don't. But do exactly what it's telling you to do. Follow along with it. Alright, if we square root for number 5, what times what's going to give me 121? We're on number 5. So we're thinking, what's the square root of 121? Or we're thinking something times itself is 121. What's that number? 11. So 11 times 11 should give me 121. Alright, the next one. The negative is going to stay out front. And now let's think about the square root of 49. What is the square root of 49? Yeah, it's going to end up being, the square root of 49 is just 7, but because of the negative out front, -7. So again, type it very literally into your calculator. Remember that this is your negative key down here. So if I press that, and then I need a square root to pop up. So I'm going to hit second caret key to get the square root. That's not a square root. Hold on. I'm going to do that again. I want second x squared. Oh, now I've got a logarithm. Hold on. All sorts of crazy stuff is happening. Negative. Second. X squared. Now I've got it. the charm. 49. Took 3 times, but we got there. So again, you want to type it in exactly how you see it. The negative sign, the square root, and the 49. Even if it takes you 3 times to type it in. Alright, next one. Instead of doing it all on the calculator, you can think about each part separately. So if I have a fraction and I'm square rooting, remember it's the same as square rooting the top and bottom. What do we know the square root of 25 is? So what times it? Yeah. And what do we know the square root of 36 is? 6. So that's how you're going to get your answer. I know some of us are using the calculators a little more, a little less. But again, make sure you understand that at the essence of what's going on here, that's what we're doing. Alright, so that's my final answer. Remember, you can always box stuff in. Next one, the negative comes along for the ride. Right? It's just sitting out front, so it's going to continue to just sit out front. And I'm going to think about this problem the same way I thought about 7. What do we know the square root of 1 is? 1. Square root of 64 is 8. So this whole thing is going to be my answer. Alright, we have a table, and it is shaped like a square. So here's my table. And the area of the table is 36. Remember, to get area, we need to do length times width. And if it's a square, right, both sides are the same length. So if this is the area, the way that we can figure out each side is by taking the square root of it. So if we take the square root of 36, what do we get? 6. So that means each side is 6 inches. So think backwards for a minute. If you have a table somewhere in front of you, and on your table you've got a length and a width of 6, 6 times 6, is that going to give you back your area of 36? Yeah. Alright, now for this last part, I would probably, if it were me, I would probably write PEMDAS again. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Remember that I like to write the multiplication and division next to each other because they're the same level, and the same with the addition and subtraction. Alright, let's look at number 1. I have choices of what to do first. Should I add or should I divide? Divide. So division comes first. Now, this is kind of what Mr. Fletcher was saying. If you don't show work and you just give me a final answer, you're not going to get all your points. You're going to be losing a bunch of points. So you need to make sure that there are some steps in between where we start and where we finish. So, this is asking us to take 12 and divide it by negative 3. So not subtract 3, but divide it by a negative 3. So what do we get when we divide 12 by a negative 3? 4. And it should be negative, right? Because if you have a positive divided by a negative, it should be negative overall. Alright, so I still have my plus. Here's my negative 6. So again, there should at least be one step of work in between where you start and where you finish. Like, I need to see what you're thinking, I need to be able to see what's going on in your brain, and I need to know that you're not using the calculator for all of it. Alright, if I have negative $6, somebody came and borrowed $6 from me, and then they came back and borrowed 4 more, how much am I in the hole? Yeah, 10. So they owe me $10. And again, I like to box in my final answer so I know that, okay, this is what I want to look at. Alright, the next one has addition and subtraction. Those are equals to each other. Do you remember which one we should do first? So addition and subtraction are equals. Do you remember we talked about doing the problems like you read a book and doing them from left to right? Okay, so that's what we go to next then. So if they're equals, we gotta go left to right. So So 30 take away 9 leaves me with what? 21. And then we add the 4. What's our final answer? 25. So again, with my rubric, with the way it looks for the quiz tomorrow, yes, you get a point for the correct answer, right? Like the correct answer is always important, but how you get there is important too. So you're getting points for this and this. So don't lose out. Alright, number 3. What should I do first? Yes. And 6 minus 8, because it's in the parentheses, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't do it first because subtraction is really low on our list. But because it's in parentheses, that kind of makes it move up the chart there. Alright, so 6 take away 8 gives me what? Negative 2. I'm going to leave my time sign, and then I'm going to come over and do this subtraction problem. 7 minus 5, what does that give me? 2. And now we're going to multiply them together. Negative 2 times positive 2, negative 4. And again, I know I keep saying show your work. It doesn't have to look identical to mine, right? Like it doesn't have to be the exact same thing that I've written and you've got the arrows and the, like, it doesn't have to be identical, but you should have something. Alright, next one. Let's go to the innermost set of parentheses. If I work my way in and here, so this is the innermost thing, I'm going to do this first. So what do I get when I subtract the 4 and the 2? 2. Alright, so I'm going to rewrite this with just a 2. So the goal with these is kind of eliminating stuff as you go and making it look a little simpler every single time. Alright, so now we're going to do this next. I know I've got multiplication, but parentheses trump that. So if I subtract 8 minus 2, what am I going to get? A 6. And then for my last step, now I'm going to actually multiply, and what do I get? 48, right? 8 times.
Double check your work all the time in your calculator at the very end.
Yep, I get 48 still. And again, remember to go slow, and double checking work is a great idea too. And maybe you don't double check work every single day, right? Like maybe when we have a bunch of classwork and notes and stuff, maybe we're not always double checking. But on a quiz, that's a good day to double check. Alright, number 5. I'm going to leave it as a fraction till the very end. So I'm going to deal with the top part first. Should I subtract or should I multiply? Multiply. Okay. So I have 23 minus, and I know 3 times 5 is 15. Alright, now if I go to that top part, to the numerator, if I subtract those two, what do I end up with? 8. And in the denominator, I still have my 4. The 4 is just kind of hanging out because there's nothing I need to do with that. And then when I divide, finally, I get 2. Perfect. Again, another good reason to show work in general is because if you do something goofy along the way, like if we do 3 times 5 and we have a moment and we get 8. Have you ever multiplied and instead of multiplying you add? You like make that mistake in your head? I've done that a million times. But if you put 8 here because you were just having a moment, then I can take off just a little bit. I can take off half a point because it was something small. So that's the other benefit of showing me your work, is that you can get a better score in general. So I'm, like I said, I'm on your team. I'm here to help. So make sure you show your steps because that's how I can help you the most. Alright, these absolute values we treat like parentheses. So they come first before anything else. If I do 3 minus 9, what does that give me? Not 6, but negative 6, yeah. Alright, now it lives inside those absolute values. What do the absolute values do? Make it positive. So now it pops out as a positive. So everything in absolute values values comes out positive. It doesn't come out as the opposite, just always comes out positive. Should I divide or add next? Divide. What do we know 6 divided by 2 is? 3. And then when I add it to 5, I get 8. Alright, so we're going to see some more of these questions tomorrow on a warm-up to make sure that we are super ready. But this is going to be very similar to the quiz, so it's going to be what you want to have next to you as you're working. What questions do you have? And then we're going to continue on with new stuff.